usual.
This meeting is being recorded.
So just to say that this meeting is being recorded, and if you do not want your likeness or the objects that may be around you, please either turn off your video or call back on a phone. They will be posted on the website, and just wanted to make sure everyone knew that. Our mission is the same mission it's always been, which is to preserve the Chuckanut Community Forest in perpetuity, and all the its educational, ecological, and recreational values. The fiscal part of our mission is completed, and the loan fund has been repaid, and we are scheduled, as we'll talk about later this evening, perhaps, to sunset in mid-September. I guess I'll call the meeting to order and go ahead and have a roll call. Hugh Beatty.
Here.
Ed Grumbine.
Here.
Frank James, I'm here. Is John with us yet? John Hymas? And John McLaughlin is excused due to
John Hymas is not here yet.
Okay, well, we'll note that John is not yet here and that John McLaughlin is excused. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of our prior meeting of April 26th. I believe there were some corrections to it, but I think it's in good standing now. Do any of the commissioners have additions, corrections, or deletions from the minutes from April 26th?
I move to accept them.
All right, do I hear a second? Are you prepared to second the adoption of the minutes, or you want a few more minutes to review them?
Did we get John here to have the meeting yet?
We can have the meeting with 3 as a quorum.
Where's the 3?
Well, it's me, you, and Ed.
Ed's here? Oh, I didn't see Ed.
Yeah, Ed's over on the right-hand end. If you click through those things, you'll eventually find him at the end.
Okay, yeah, I'll approve. Yeah.
You second, okay. You're seconding Hugh? So
Yeah.
moved and seconded by Hugh. All those in favor say aye and raise your right hand so I can see it. There you go, got it. Okay, passes unanimously. We also need to look at the minutes of today's meeting and see if there are any additions or corrections to that. If anybody has anything, we'll be talking about education, we'll be talking about the conservation easement, we'll talk about dissolution of the Community Forest Park District, and then we've got some new business, and then the usual perfunctory mechanical things we'll do at the end. But any comments by the commissioners about the proposed agenda for today? Great. Is there a motion to approve it?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Ed moves.
I'll second.
John just entered, so we now have, just let the record show that at 6:08, John Hymas joined us. Hi, John. Looks like the audio is just connecting. So John, welcome. We've just approved the minutes, or we've had a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Pardon, we approved the minutes of the last meeting. We're approving the agenda for this meeting, and it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Hymas, have you had a chance to look at that agenda, and are you approving of it? You're on mute. You're still on mute, John. I can.
All right.
Any additions, corrections, or deletions in the agenda for tonight?
I read the agenda and I approve.
Okay, so that means we can vote on it then. All those in favor of accepting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Passes unanimously. That gets us to introductions. Just to acknowledge that our legal counsel is here, our secretary is here, and some guests from both Tip Johnson and John Survey are here. And Vince Bakunis, who is regularly here, is here as well. Those are people that I see in addition to welcome to everybody. The general public comments, we'd like to offer 3 minutes for anybody who'd like to say whatever they like to speak up and speak out. Please, John Survey, you've got your hand up. Please unmute and share what you'd like to with us for your 3 minutes.
I'd be happy to defer to Vince first. She's the regular here.
Vincent, did you want to speak?
Okay, well, I just wanted to say how pleased I am to see the conservation easement business posted on the website, and I'm very optimistic, although I'm not popping champagne just yet.
There are always issues. I had a fairly long discussion with some people at the Land Trust today about some of the issues, and I believe that Bob also spoke with people today. So it's still very much a draft comment. It's also a document that needs to not only go through our review and eventual approval, but the city council's view and approval and the Land Trust review and approval. So there's a good long path ahead of us prior to getting a final document. Anything else, Vincent? Thank you very much. John, Survey.
Yes, I assume that all of you have seen the email that I sent you. Okay, I'm going to repeat that request here. That you delay the approval for the signing of the assignment. And that you instead, and the reason is that the public should by law have a chance, an advanced chance to review. Now, I'm not sure if it's 24 hours or longer, but they weren't posted up until noon today. That's 0 days. But even there, we're in the end of a 10-year plus process. These are the vital documents that are coming out of this entire process, and millions of dollars in taxpayer dollars, of which I'm one. And the final documents and what the agreements are and what's going to happen in the future as this commission dissolves in September, October, should have public notice, and the public should have a chance to comment or ask questions. And I've been disappointed at how things have not been more open. Now, the documents may vary from what originally was promised to the voters, and the voters should have a chance to know why or comment on those things. You should, in my opinion, but you can do however you want, and I expect that you're going to probably, well, I don't want to say what I expect. Defer it, have a public meeting, and announce it, and make the documents widely available, and have a meeting where you have a hearing and let people speak, perhaps more than 3 minutes, so that they can make a point. Do that perhaps in June, and delay, maybe you discuss it in July, and maybe you look at signing in August. But frankly, last night when I went on your website, after I received notice of the agenda only the day before, the documents were not there. They were put up this morning, obviously in response to my email to you, the commission. So that's my comment. I urge that. You all know that I write, and I will be writing about this issue. I've been very concerned about this issue. In fact, Northwest Citizen first broke this in 1996 on Northwest Citizen, what was being planned for the 100-acre wood. So we've got dozens of articles about the 100-acre wood over the years, and my interest continues. Thank you.
So John, I would like to give you just another minute if you wouldn't mind, but what are the substantive issues that you're interested in? We're happy to accommodate. You should have had it for hours. I assume you had a chance to at least look at it.
Barely, and not all of it. And along with that, even if I had, tonight is not the night for me to try to present my concerns. My concern for decades has been the procedure and process in public and open meetings, and with the public being able to actually comment and know what they're commenting about and be able to understand whether it's the city council, the county council, the Port of Bellingham, and on. That has been my obsession. Some people have said that's why we did Northwest Citizen. It doesn't try to advance a solution or an advocate for a particular goal or vote. We try to bring issues to the public that the Bellingham Herald and now the Cascadia Daily ignore, distort, or try to cover up. We push them in order to the public to be aware that there is an issue, there is a public issue that they could perhaps get involved in. And that's what Northwest Citizen does. And that's what I will probably be doing here. Yes, I have issues with the overall. I know the general assignment thing. I can tell you in succinctly, Frank, to answer the question and one thing, the assignment should not be done. The purpose of this commission was to pay off the $3 million and return the property to the city parks, period. We have our government, we have our city parks, we elect our mayor and our council, we have to trust them. As Rand Jack pointed out, theirs is a passive thing. To give the assignment to them ties up and makes it unable for the city to do things with that property. I trust our city and the elected people as much as I trust any other entity out there. I think the Whatcom Land Trust is a wonderful outfit, but I don't think anybody should have assignment. This belongs to the people of Bellingham. We on the south side paid in for $3 million. We want, and I think that others share, we want our city government to have control of this park, period.
So you believe there shouldn't be a conservation easement, to summarize?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, that's certainly a divergent opinion from what we've heard before from most people. And we've been reviewing this.
Characterize it that way, but I think that's inappropriate for you to say it's a divergent opinion.
Well, it is. I value divergent opinion, John. I'm not. That's not meant in any way to be pejorative.
I didn't say it was a pejorative. I just don't think it's appropriate.
Oh, well, that's. Well, I thank you for your opinion, and we'll see how today goes. Thank you very much. I think Tip is the only other person here right now. Tip, did you want to make any public comment?
Yeah, without taking an opinion on the conservation easement, which I only saw the links to this afternoon, and I have to download and be able to review them because they don't just display. I just think John's got a good point. For instance, the city council, they publish their agenda on Thursday. All the documents are available for review all weekend long before their meeting on Monday. And that's very helpful. I just, I possibly even favor a conservation easement and may lean more toward preservation than recreation. But I think that the people of the district who have paid their taxes should have time to fully review the have access and fully review the documents.
Thanks, Tip. Anything else?
That's it.
I appreciate your comment. Thank you. And there are a lot of different opinions about this. Appreciate you bringing that one forward. A new person just joined us. Tom, this is the public comment time. And if you'd like to make a comment, no pressure to do that if you don't want to, but if you'd like to, please just signify that somehow. We'd be happy to open it up to you. Just unmute and make whatever comment you'd like. If you don't want to, that's fine too. No pressure. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll move on then with the rest of the agenda. Always appreciate a lively debate and diverse points of view. That it's what our democracy is about. So our next is a usual thing on our agenda is the Parks Advisory Board meeting report. And John Hymas, I don't know if you were able to make it, and it looks like our other Parks Board attendee is not here tonight. But have you gotten the minutes from that? Are we able to attend it, John Hymas?
You're muted, John.
Yeah.
John Hymas, you're muted.
There.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
now we
can hear
can.
you.
Okay. No, I wasn't able to attend.
Okay.
I haven't heard from John Blethen, so
Anyway,
John often shows up, but sometimes late. And so we can maybe get back to that. If John comes, we'll ask him if there's a way to fill us in on what's going on there. Always helpful. To go into our old business, education and PR in the community, public relations with the community, to stay in touch with what people are thinking and opinions out there. The issues under that item are the proliferation of trails, the off-leash dogs, and the mountain biking impacts. I know that I was tracking, and I believe you, Ed, you've been tracking too, the number of off-leash dogs in the 100-acre wood. It's relatively out of control in a very serious way. About 70% of the dogs have been running without leash. That has serious impacts on wildlife. There were some conflicts between coyotes and dogs that occurred last week, where there were off-leash dogs and coyotes in the park at the same time, or in the wood at the same time. I don't think anything's happened. Ed, have you been continuing to track off-leash dogs on your walks through the park?
yes, but less than before because I was ill. I'd say it's about 60 to 65% off leash.
Yeah, my experience too has been the majority been off leash.
Certainly the majority.
Yeah, I would hope we could reach out to the city and once again encourage them to post signage as early as possible to educate people about the desirability of not having dogs off leash. It is not an off leash dog park. There are a number of off leash dog parks that are alternatives. And it does definitely do damage to the wildlife that's there. Proliferation of trails continues. There has been some trail work being done on the portion adjacent to the Chuckanut Drive. I don't really know what's going on there. Does anybody else know what that construction project is on the northern entrance, trail entrance there? I haven't had a chance to call City Parks to see what it is. It seems like it'd be very early for implementation of the trail construction project. Perhaps it is, I don't know. I can try to call them and find out. And then finally, the mountain biking impacts. I think they're less than they were. I think the proliferation of mountain bikes going at high speed in groups was really a response to the possibility they might not be able to go there. And I think that's really died down considerably. There still is obviously ongoing bike usage. It seems more responsible and more in keeping with a wildlife area. The other issue is stewardship of the forest. The thing that I called and talked with some land trust folks about was what they saw the stewardship capacity of the land trust for this parcel would be. They typically do assign a steward for parcels. Ed, I believe you're on the committee for the land trust, actually, the stewardship committee. And what I was told was that there really are making major initiatives about stewardship for the property that they own. About half their property they have conservation use on, they actually own fee simple. And what that initiative is really aimed at is the kind of responsible management of the property and ownership, and with the conservation easement. And they do not anticipate that being extended to the property which they simply hold the conservation easement for, and not an ownership position in. So I don't think that would be applying to our situation. Yeah, Ed, please, you know more about this than me, I'm sure.
Well, as you mentioned, Frank, there are two kinds of lands the land trust works with: fee simple lands, which we own, and lands with conservation easements, which the land trust holds. And typically, stewards are not assigned to conservation easement properties, but there's no rule that says that that can never happen. Most volunteers on the owned lands are in fact volunteers. So if someone wanted to volunteer specifically for 100-acre woods, or 6 people wanted to volunteer, and unless the land trust decides no for some reasons that are not in policy, that could certainly happen.
Yeah, I asked about that, and it is, they do have stewards for non-owned, non-fee simple owned land. And they, and that the main function of those stewards are to ensure compliance with the conservation easement. So it's certainly conceivable that one could be assigned by the land trust, and I think that would be a very welcome thing from our point of view. That extra set of eyes on site would be a good thing. I think we'd have to talk with the land trust about that, though, and it would not be a management function. Those are clearly in our relationship with the city, reserved to the city itself, as it should be. And so it might be something we could work out. I certainly believe it's appropriate to talk more with the land trust about it and to explore. I know when we talked to the Lummi community and the Northwest Indian College folks, they were really interested much more in a stewardship role than a holding of the conservation easement role. They were willing to hold the conservation easement, but their real interest is in conserving land that is the headwaters, salmon streams, and might directly bear on their interests as a community and as an example of how to be an exemplary steward. I think that discussion is still worth having, and potentially it could be something that the city could cooperate with and or the land trust could cooperate with, certainly giving some opportunity for the first people in this region to have a say and a role and some participation, whether it's just observing for compliance with the conservation easement, or whether it's actually a more active role that would have to go through the city. I think it is something that we should pursue. Many organizations have a land acknowledgement at the beginning of their meetings. Unfortunately, those often ring very hollow to me because they don't really invite that community who they're acknowledging actually are the owners and the original owners and the people who have some both moral and often even legal rights to the land we're talking about. They often don't have much opportunity to exercise those rights, moral or legal. So I think it's a discussion worth continuing with. It's a separate discussion than the conservation easement itself, but it is something I think I'd like to see us continue. I also had an opportunity to discuss further with some of the staff at Resources, who's the other group we talked about. They remain interested and supportive, and some of the people have actually pretty extensive experience in both holding conservation easements and being stewards, and it's an area that they remain interested in as well. So I think either of those might be good additional partners. Someone here may know better than me, but the city did assign a stewardship role, I thought rather formally, to Recreation Northwest. I don't really, I'd have to look back into the details of that. I don't know, does anyone know what those details were? They talked about it in that fashion. So I'll try to find out about that more before our next meeting, and we can put that on our agenda for the next meeting if that's the wish of the commissioners. Is that something you agree we should continue to pursue? Ed? Oh, you're saying yes. Okay, great.
Yeah, we should pursue it. And pursuant to your comment a moment ago about what's going on at the 18th Street entrance, that is pretty much Recreation Northwest work. They're building an environmental education site, putting in chairs that can be used for classes, coming to visit the woods, and other activities. In addition to that, they've opened up a plant identification trail just south of that area, and that had a formal opening 2 or 3 weeks ago. So those are the two main educational activities, creating a place to gather and then opening up this plant environmental ed trail.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about that, Ed. There's actually there's backhoes and survey crews and heavy equipment at the at the entrance off of Chuckanut Drive, not the one
Oh,
on Viewcrest, but the next, the further one down, the northernmost one. And so I think it's different, right?
yeah,
We're
that
not
would be
talking
different.
backhoes
I
and-
haven't
yeah.
seen that. Yeah.
And it looked like they'd unearthed a large pipe there of some kind. I don't really know if it's got anything to do with the park or just maintenance work on something. But they were definitely right at where the trail enters the park, where the sign is, about 200 yards north of where the Viewcrest entrance is.
Well, we should pursue, following your idea, as far as I'm concerned, we should pursue reaching out to Recreation Northwest and
Yeah.
finding out what the game plan is in the woods going forward.
Yeah, the property they're working on is actually city property separate from the 100-acre wood. It's that's actually out of the purview of the board of the interest we have. It's not in the property that we have dealt with. It's a separate parcel. But it's great that they're doing that. Those seem like good things to be doing. So I'll pursue some of those things and being a report back to the next meeting. I don't think that requires a vote until some action is required. Looks like John Brown just joined us. I let him in, although I don't know why. Hi, John. Mr. Brown. I never knew
Muted.
you in town or someplace else, but welcome. And we're well into the meeting now, so we'll continue on, but welcome John Brown, former commissioner. The next item on our agenda is the conservation easement, and this has emerged in a very complex fashion, more complex than I had expected. And I think I want to leave it up to Bob to explain it to us. He sent us a copy earlier. I'm sure most of you had a chance to read it. It's a little different than what we've looked at before, but it's really in keeping and largely in line with what we've been talking about since 2014. There are some details, though, that may matter, and we'd love to have that discussion now. So, Bob, if you'd like to kind of walk us through what is new or what the potential options are for the conservation easement going forward.
There are no substantive changes to the conservation easement amendment from what we've been discussing for the last many months. The board has seen this document more than once, and we've discussed it at several meetings. And the direction I have interpreted has been to go forward and try to reach finalization with this agreement. And that's what I've done. I believe this is, again, essentially the same document you've all seen a number of times. The changes are that instead of having an agreement that came back in March or so, instead of having the conservation easement assigned first to the land trust and then have an amendment to it between the city and the land trust, at the request of the Whatcom Land Trust, this has changed so that the easement and basically the same terms would be amended as a first amendment to the conservation easement between the city and the park district. And so the park district would consummate that amendment and immediately assign the document, the amended conservation easement to the land trust. So those things would happen concurrently. And the land trust would become the holder of the conservation easement at that point. And then there is an agreement that I created to basically explain the structure of how this will work. Once the assignment is made and once the park district has dissolved, then the city and the land trust will execute a second amended and restated conservation easement that replaces the park district with the land trust as the grantee. so that that's reflected in the document in perpetuity. And also eliminates a couple of provisions that the city wanted to carry through from the interlocal agreement to make sure that the park district dissolved. And those would no longer be necessary in the easement. I attempted to explain this in an email, and I think between the email and the documents that I sent, I think that more or less explains it in a fair amount of detail. The only thing I would add is, and I feel bad because when I transmitted these documents to everyone on Thursday evening, I forgot to say, let's make sure we post them on our website, and so they didn't get posted. And that's one of the reasons we have the complaint from Mr. Surveus. I will say that we have looked into this from a legal standpoint, and from a legal standpoint, the board has the authority to approve these documents tonight, the legal authority. And it's going to be a board decision as to whether it wants to do that or not, or postpone to provide the opportunity for more public comment. That would be within the board's prerogative to do as well.
Bob, is there, to Mr. Survey's legal assertion that we're required to do that, you're saying that's not the case, but in the sense of good governance, we should do it. And that seems like a prudent thing. My question to you would be, is there an impact to the process is there an impact to the land trust in terms of their timing of approving it, or an impact to the city and their timeliness approving it? One of the dangers here is if we're delayed too long, the city has made perfectly clear if this isn't finalized, we will not. We will have the old agreement and not the new one, the one that we signed in 2014.
Correct.
So would there be a timeliness issue in terms of allowing the land trust time to get it through their process and the city time to get it through its process? Is that already in place, or I guess what I'm asking you, what's the consequence of waiting another month?
The consequence of waiting another month is probably is probably not something that would be fatal to this agreement. But I will say this: the negotiation is done. This is my opinion. I think if we try to negotiate something different in the interim, there is a better than likely chance that this whole arrangement will go sideways. And so that's my concern. I don't have a concern necessarily about a month, but I will say that when we were talking about having this wrapped up in June. And I purposely put the document out till August 1 to give us some additional time, anticipating, there could be something that could delay it. There is a process to go through at City Council. One of the things that's in this agreement that you'll notice, I'm sure you all have noticed, is we've got more of a commitment from the city than simply a letter from the Parks Director. We have the city signing off on an agreement that they will spend the money on the 100-acre wood, and that this would be approved by the City Council. We definitely want that. To me, this is a good final resolution. I am concerned about delay for the sake of delay. Having said that, I think it can still work. If we delay it, I think we'll have some disappointed partners, possibly. I did speak with Rand Jack today. He was anxious to get this approved. He made it very clear that he didn't see any room for different negotiations. He did not see, and I know you spoke with someone at the Land Trust as well. Rand is sort of acting as their attorney. He said he did not see any room for bringing another partner in this agreement to steward the park other than the Whatcom Land Trust. And the Whatcom Land Trust, he pointed out, is not typically a steward of a conservation easement. And Ed pretty much said this as well. It's very different when they own a fee ownership as opposed to hold a conservation easement. A conservation easement is more simply of a monitoring compliance with the document. And Rand was not encouraging at all about bringing anyone else in to help do that. So I don't see this getting traction. And I've had so many discussions on it so far that I do feel like I've got a good sense of where they're coming from. As far as the legality of it versus good governance, I think Ed makes a good point on the good governance part. It definitely has a better appearance. I don't know that it's going to make any material difference to extend it, but it certainly has a better appearance. It doesn't look good that the documents weren't available to the public until the same day of this meeting. But this is not, at the same time, this is not a public hearing. And it isn't.
So, but to put a point on my question, Bob, is there a timeline that this would upset in terms of approval? I know that it takes sometimes a month to set up a meeting and get things on the agenda. It's approval of 3 different bodies. Those are complex things. And my question was really pretty pointed, is would waiting till next month to approve it make it impossible to approve or difficult?
I thought I did answer that, Frank. I said that it wouldn't be fatal to the deal to put it off a month. I did say that, but I think that there are risks associated with doing that. So no, it's not impossible. I don't think it's going to be fatal. I think it can be done. I just wanted to make sure I voiced my concerns about doing that.
Sure, yeah. No, I heard you clearly. So we got folks. So Ed, I think you had your hand up first, and then Hugh, and then if there's time, we'll talk with Tip too. Ed?
So here's another way to look at it, and I don't mean to paint myself as anti-democratic, anti-good governments. If we delay a month and allow public comment, from what I'm gathering from what Bob just said and my personal experience with the process, nothing much can be changed. So the public can give input, but that input is not going to influence the outcome, given what the scenario that Bob has painted and the reality of working with both the city and the land trust. So it may look good to have in a good governance process sort of way, but the content of whatever that process may yield is probably not going to change anything, is what I'm trying to suggest. And so we need to think about that in the big picture sense of whatever those risks might be in the background that Bob referred to.
And Hugh?
I was ready to approve it last month. I'm ready to approve it this month. I think delay is not a good thing. You've got a 6-person mayor's race primary, August 1st. Things are going to get weird in the fall. It can get weird in the fall. And I just get this done. I mean, we've had plenty of, quote, hearings as far as we were going to get the lawyers to and the land trust and work out an amended conservation agreement. And we had plenty of discussion on it. And Surveys hasn't darkened our door for quite a while, but he shows up tonight as usual with this, oh, it's so late. We haven't had time. You know? So I'm ready to go. That's all I got.
Tip, if you have a point of information or a simple question, we'd entertain it, even though it's outside the.
Well, yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's not a simple question. It's really, you know, I don't like the way this is going because, you know, Bob's right. It doesn't look good to post the docs on the day of the meeting. It might be legal, doesn't necessarily look good. And I don't think it's fair for Bob to characterize it as delay for the sake of delay.
Oh.
I mean, people have been paying their money, they're interested, they want to see this stuff. And yes, this is not a public hearing, but you know, maybe it should have been.
Well, didn't we have a
Anyway,
hearing?
you know, people deserve adequate notice, access to the documents in time for review. I just downloaded them and looked at them. I have questions that I didn't have before. Now, I'm not saying I'm opposed to a conservation easement, but you know, many people may be. And so, yes, are there going to be changes to this conservation as drafted through the original, the first and second amendments with the agreement? And Bob, maybe it's great work. It probably is. I know you, and you do good work. But, you know, people deserve a chance to look at this and say whether or not they even want a goddamn conservation easement. That's the issue. Not if we're going to make changes. It's like maybe there isn't going to be one. Or maybe everybody will be opposed to it and you'll still vote and approve it. And maybe I even agree with the conservation easement. I just think you need a chance to do some good government here.
Good God.
Hey, Frank, can I say something? I can't
You're
hear you.
muted, Frank.
Just, there you go. I'm sorry. Vincent,
Oh.
please. Yeah, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that we were delayed because of the difficulty of our legal counsel talking with the city's legal counsel for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I mean, we started working on this last October, and the end result is something that has to be worked out by the legal teams, not by community input, because the community has already put the input in. And the other thing is, back in, I forgot what year it was now, 2016 or so, we were sued and we won that lawsuit to the tune of $111,000 to expressly say that our purpose was not only to collect the funds, but also to protect in perpetuity, which means a conservation easement. You can't trust city government and rotating mayors and councils to have
Right.
in perpetuity protection. That's what a conservation easement is. And that's why we need this conservation easement. And boy, it's already May. If you want June, July, August, talk about vacations. I mean, I hate to see us lose the conservation altogether because we don't make the September deadline. So I'm all for you guys voting for it tonight.
Robin, did you have a point?
I just was going to make the point that you could, if you didn't want to wait till the end of June, but you wanted to give people a little more time, you could maybe do a special meeting. That's all I wanted to say.
I thought of that too, Robin. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
I think that while Bob made some good points about moving this along in timeliness, I also think that we do want to engage in good governance. I mean, I don't think we should dip out of this just out of, especially when it's not, as Bob said, a kind of a poison pill to the process. If we can accommodate public input and review, I think we should accommodate public input and review. And if we don't want to put it off a month, we certainly can have a special meeting. I know those are inconvenient this time of year, but I think we've been able to find those times before. We could probably find them again. And I think, as Tip said, it's a very reasonable request. I mean, and you know, Tip and John are coming from very different points of view, if I understand them both correctly, and they're both are telling us the same thing, and that's the public comment we've had. And Vince is, of course, wise counsel from much experience and historical information as well. But I personally, I'll just step away from being the chair for a second and just say that I actually think we do want to provide as good a governance as we can. And if that meant us agreeing to another meeting in the near future, or even a meeting next month, provided it doesn't threaten our ability to have a conservation easement, I don't think is an unreasonable request.
And I think I would feel more, let me just say this, I would feel more comfortable with a special meeting relatively soon than I would putting it off an entire another month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I
I agree.
Hugh, did you have your hand up again, or is that a residual hand from last time?
Well, let's move on and let's set a date and have a special meeting then.
Do people have their calendars, and could we do that now?
One option would be 2 weeks from today.
Okay, so 2 weeks from today would be the 7th of June. If people could check their calendars.
I'm open that day. Or evening, as the case may be.
Of course, I have a commitment that I made. I can't believe. Yeah, I'm really sorry. It's not a regular thing. I committed to speak at the community college at an event.
So how does it look
What
any
about
other
one
night
week?
that week?
Well, what about
The
a week
sixth
from
is
now?
the 6th would be wide open if we were able to meet on the Tuesday.
Tuesday works for me. If that, many of my days like that week, I work a 12-hour day on Monday and Thursday and Friday. So and Wednesday is an 8-hour day, but Tuesday I kind of have off, so I can do it Tuesday, the 6th, if that works with folks.
So
Bob, would
Tuesday
the
is the
6th work
6th.
for you? Okay, you confirm that's okay?
The 6th is okay for me.
Okay,
Hey, can I speak?
sure, please, John.
Oh, okay. I say we vote now. I mean, we haven't even talked about voting, on a special meeting. I think we should vote now on accepting things as they are.
That's a legitimate thing to discuss.
I think
Before
it's
we
not.
do that, I want to make one statement. And that is, it's partly in response to John Surveas, also to you, Tip. The idea that we shouldn't have a conservation easement is almost a non sequitur.
Right.
Because if we didn't have a conservation easement, we probably wouldn't have a park. And I don't think there's many people who understand that. But it was the Park District Board. I went back and looked at the dates. We got that conservation easement in January of 2014 after a very long negotiation. And if the Park District had not achieved that conservation easement by then, and to get anything more probably would have tabled everything, and who knows how long it would have taken. It was only a few months later in July that the Park District was sued by Furlands. And one of the main arguments that they were making was that the Park District and the levy were invalid because it was an illegal tax for a variety of reasons. I just went back, and maybe I'll do it at the next meeting if we have a next meeting. But I will tell you that the Court of Appeals relied on the existence of the conservation easement to defeat Furlands' argument that the tax was invalid. So if we had messed around with getting that conservation easement in place because we were trying to negotiate something just a little bit incrementally better, which I don't think we ever would have gotten personally, and we didn't have that conservation easement in place by 2014, there's a reasonable chance that levy would have been struck down. John Surveas was saying that there was no reason to have the conservation easement. But that conservation easement is what the Court of Appeals relied on to say that the levy was not invalid, that it wasn't simply a tax for the city as a whole, that the district actually got a real property interest in the park, and that was enough to sustain the levy. So I think that needs to be remembered. And the only people here who were part of that are, well, there's three of them. There's Vince and John Brown, and John Hymas. And
Yeah.
if they hadn't struck that deal when they did, and we didn't know that at the time, of course, but if they hadn't struck that deal when they did, we might not have a park. Honest to God, we might. You have to look
Bob.
at, and I'd encourage anybody to read the decision of the Court of Appeals. Tip, if you want to read it, I'll send it to you.
Please do.
Just send me your email and I'll send it.
Robin
to you.
has my email.
All right, Robin, you can send it. But anyway, I want people to know that it actually refers to it a number of times in that decision. And I argued it, so I know what the argument was. And we were at risk of losing everything. But the conservation easement was pivotal to winning that case.
My sense is there would be no, probably no votes, let alone a consensus of votes for us not to have a conservation easement. I think my discussions with each of our commissioners would lead me to believe that that's not something that would get very far as a motion or as an activity. And I think it's a little bit on the emotional side to discuss it in that frame. I mean, what we're being asked to do is to give people in the public a week to look at some documents so that they can make meaningful comments. I would hope there would be people who would make more meaningful comments if they don't want a conservation easement. That's not I don't think that's a well-formed or well-informed direction to go. But there may be other things that people do want to say. I mean, the problem is not an issue for the particular outcome. The question is, did we allow the public an opportunity to review it? And if there's no compelling reason to not give the public an opportunity to review it, why would we not do that? I mean, I think we made an error in not posting it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And my point was not to argue one way or the other about the delay. It was more to kind of set the record straight on the conservation easement, because I just thought it needed to be understood how important that is and the timing of it was in 2014.
And I think those of us that have been involved are aware and appreciative. So thank you. Vincent, you had your hand up.
Can I just remind everybody too that the public has a chance to talk to city council when it comes before council.
Good point, Vincent.
Oh, and right.
And the public had a chance through our monthly meetings to comment if they wanted any changes to the conservation easement. We went through a pretty tedious process to do a few little changes, from the original to this. And they've had plenty of time to comment at the meetings if they'd attended them or zoomed into them. But nobody has hardly showed up, even though they were noticed.
So this is really a decision for the board.
While I have the floor, I would like to offer one little change to the second amended conservation easement, and that's page 10 and page 12. You want to have the identity of the land trust. You either want to have the executive director or the president, but you don't want to have it two different pages saying one thing or another.
Was there a reason to have the president on one and the executive director on the other?
No, that's and Hugh made that point to me. That needs to be changed. The signature line is the president, and at one point well,
it's 10 and page 12. Yeah.
And page 12.
The executive director sounds better because they don't elect the guy and call him president of the land trust. He's the executive director. He's a professional that's hired.
Right. So Hugh, could you remind me? Now I see president listed on page 11 for the signature, and president listed on the notary on page 13. Where is the executive director?
Well, I show executive director on page 10, the bottom of page 10, where it says miscellaneous, and then it has 1, 2, 3, and then it has, yeah. So maybe we're.
Oh. Under miscellaneous, that just says notice to the grantee shall be to the executive director of the grantee. And that's fine to be a different person
And it has his name below that and everything.
who shall be.
It says Gabe Epperson.
Yeah, so you're saying we should strike the name Gabe Epperson.
No, I'm just saying strike wherever it says president and put executive director.
No, I think
And
we're
it's
supposed to keep. the-
President on page
Yeah.
12 at the bottom where it says grantee.
Yeah, so the president would sign, but notice would be given to the executive director. Those are two different things. That's not a conflict.
One is
Who's
who
the
you send
president?
the notice to, the other one is who actually is responsible for signing the document in the name of the land trust, right, Bob?
Right, exactly.
So the different functions he's not signing the document in an approval sense, it's simply that's who notice would be sent to, and then
So
his.
who's the president of the Wacom Land Trust? I don't get it. I think there's an executive director, but there's.
No, there's both. There is a president who is elected by the board of the land trust, and then there's an executive director who is hired by the land trust. That's exactly right. And the person that should sign this document giving permission to engage the land trust is the president of the board. But the person that we would give notice to, if there was some reason to give notice, you'd want to give the executive director, who then would take it. His job would be to give it to the board members and the president.
That's exactly right.
Okay, good. I'm glad we got some.
Great. Have other folks looked at it? Do they have further comments or thoughts? I remain of the opinion that we should actually give the public an opportunity to review this. I think that was an error on our part, and I think we should correct it. But that's an issue that I wait for. If there's further discussion, we can have further discussion. If somebody wants to call a question there, I'm perfectly willing to move along. This would be an item that would require a motion, John?
I move we accept things as they are, and the public can, they can speak up in front of city council. I say we do this now and get over it. I'm not sure how to state that in a motion. So if somebody could help me, that'd be fine. But that's how I feel.
You could move approval of these documents, or actually, I think technically it's actually, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a moving approval of your president of your board signing these documents. Is that correct,
Moving
Bob?
approval and authorizing the president of our board to sign the agreement to conservation easement assignment, and to sign the conservation easement assignment itself, and to sign the first amended restated conservation easement. Those three documents is listed on the amended agenda. You would be moving approval of those three documents and authorizing the president of the board to sign them.
That's what I meant to say.
And so, John, is it your view that people that were not allowed the opportunity to review this at this point could be directed to the city council process where they could raise the issues there?
Exactly.
Can I just comment that people can raise the issues at our next meeting, but it will already be a signed thing from our point of view.
Yeah. I remain uncomfortable and unconvinced that we should just move forward without giving the public some opportunity to review things. These are complex things. Tip made a good point. These are complex documents. One cannot simply, it's backwards, Tip. What does it say? Just turn on your thing and talk.
Doesn't work.
Is that a joke? I couldn't read it, Tip.
Tip, we can't read it backwards very quickly.
Feel free to go ahead and just say what you want to say, Tip. I don't mind.
Right. I wrote it backwards because when I first wrote it, it looked backwards on my screen. So I wrote it backwards. And I just think a public hearing before our elected commissioners on this important issue is worthwhile. Now, I understand you've got a lot of dog lovers that don't like leashes. You got a lot of bike people that don't like regulations, but they all paid taxes too. You know, it's not easy, but and I've spent quite a bit of time here reviewing Bob's excellent work, and I think it's a fine easement. If I were on the board, I would probably support it, but I wouldn't support it tonight.
Okay, so then could we all agree at least to doing the meeting then on June 6th and voting then?
I think we have a motion on the floor for approval of these, the authorization to sign these 3 documents. So we either have to amend that or we have to vote on it if I'm following procedure correctly, and anybody's procedural.
I think it still needs a second.
Yeah.
Right.
Lacking a second, it would fail in and of itself, and we could consider another motion.
I would have seconded, but I will withhold my second because I will go for the June 6th meeting if we do a special meeting for people to comment.
And just to be
But
specific.
that's the end, no more.
I don't think it would be a public hearing. I think it would just be a meeting to give people an opportunity to review it. It wouldn't be a formal public hearing in that sense, but it would
That's
be
an
an
important
opportunity for people to
distinction.
speak up. Yeah.
That's an important distinction, if whether you're scheduling a public hearing or just
Yeah.
another public
Yeah.
meeting.
There are notice issues, there's a bunch of stuff. So people certainly deserve an opportunity to speak their mind. I don't think we're going to have a formal hearing because there's a lot of, it's quite more complex.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
John, John, you're not muted.
I just muted him.
It's okay. No, you can leave him unmuted. John's entitled to say whatever he wants.
John Hymas, would you be, I know what you want to do and I get that. I respect it. I really do. I'm with you, but would you be available for a meeting on June 6th?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've been available for over 10 years, so I
Yes,
may
you
as
have.
well. Shit, I'm sorry. Shoot. No, I'm just like, people could have spoken up tonight.
Yeah.
You know, where are they? Except for John and Tip, you know?
But
I don't know. I just think that we've
Okay,
been
I didn't
through
get an
this.
email. I didn't see an advertisement. I learned about this word of mouth this afternoon.
Okay,
So where are all the people, John?
well, we
Hey,
didn't.
You've been there
notice-
for 10 years. I've been working on this thing for 30 years.
okay,
All
okay.
right.
Dig it, Tip. All right.
But no, so we didn't have a second to John's motion. Do I hear a motion to resolve this in a different way? Hugh, you were going to make a motion to have the meeting on the 6th. John can make the meeting on the 6th. Do I hear a
John,
motion
what?
for the 6th?
You said John can make it? Okay, so, and we're gonna have a public hearing on the 6th, is
Not a
that?
public hearing. We're going to have a follow-up meeting to provide the public opportunity to review and comment on this
And-
document.
And could I amend that just to say,
Sure, please.
in review and comment, really the purpose I would see would be to give people time to read it.
Adequate
And,
notice. Yeah.
and then they could submit written comment to the board. It wouldn't be, from what I'm hearing, it wouldn't necessarily be a formal public hearing. The board would consider it. The sole purpose of the meeting would be to consider these 3 documents for approval. And the board would take public comment at the beginning of the meeting, as it always does, allowing people 3 minutes to, and I know you go beyond that, but just general public comment.
Yeah.
But not a public hearing.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. So Hugh, is that your motion clarified?
Sure, let's have the meeting on Tuesday, June 6th, right?
Yep.
at
Oh,
6 p.m.
my phone fell on the floor, so I can't look at my calendar. So I'm just Tuesday, June 6th, right? At 6 o'clock, right?
Yep. So do I hear a second to Hugh's motion?
I second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor or further discussion?
And Ed, I take it you're available too that day?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll call the question then. So all those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so John, are you abstaining? I can't hear you.
He's muted again.
There, you're on.
I abstain.
Okay. So, and Ed, you voted in favor, right? I vote in favor too. So it's 3 in favor, 1 abstention, and the motion passes. So we'll, Robin, if you could both make a public notice that there will be a meeting on that day and additional time for people to review the document. And we welcome written comment in the interim, and anybody that wants to come, please attend the meeting.
So Robin, we'll need to do an agenda. You'll probably want to send it to me to have me look at it and make sure that on the agenda, we have some notation that we send out to everybody where they can review the documents. Do we know if John?
I will do that.
Thank you. Do we know if John McLaughlin will be back by then?
Good question.
I don't know.
That would be a bonus.
Yeah, it would be good to have John here too. As we do these milestone activities, I think it's very good to have people. So the 6th at 6. Put it on your calendar, folks.
All right. And so hopefully all this noticing will get out this week before Friday, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Robin, when can you get it out by?
I'll work on it tomorrow
Thank you.
and I'll send it to Bob.
Okay.
Robin, you're the best.
Yeah, Robin, you are.
I agree.
Sorry for the late minutes these time, guys. They were humongous.
Yeah. Okay, so that is done. Sorry, I'm just sticking it in my schedule because my schedule is crazy. Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Robin and Nensa. Appreciate everybody's input. Dissolution of the Chuckanut Community Forest Park District, review questions to be addressed in the planning for dissolution. So is this a Bob or a Robin item?
Do you have something you want to say before I jump in, Bob? Or?
No, go ahead, Robin.
There's just a lot of detail.
So I gave Bob a list of questions, items, and he came up with this plan. And I have already started working on parts of it. I have a call into Andy, the finance director of the city, to have a meeting with him. I don't think I need the attorney's office for an initial meeting. Do you think so, Bob? Or
No,
Okay.
but we're happy to help if you think you need us at some point.
okay. And then I've been in sort of since last fall, I've been sort of touching base with the state auditor's office with Dina Garza, just to let her know when we look like we might be gonna dissolve so that we could plan the audit. And so I sent her another email today, and because we're trying to get it done mostly, there still might be a little bit after we're dissolved, just because all the financial stuff won't be done until after we're dissolved. But so we're going to start working on it in June. So that's going to start happening. Let's see what else. And that's about, so that's just to give you a general update as things get more concrete. I will communicate with Bob's office and also with you guys to let you know where we're at on different things and if there are questions that come up. One thing I wondered about, do we have to transfer our emails or archive them somehow and make them accessible? Bob, I just one of those records things.
I
Yeah,
think
those
we
are all
give,
things we need to work through.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the city actually gets all of our assets and liabilities, and I assume they take on some responsibility for issues like that. And Bob, I wanted to follow up with a question. I saw the correspondence with Alan Mariner about that. Did he respond to that at all?
Yeah, he did, and I don't know that he sent an email or we talked late on the phone in one of our phone calls, but he said that he would forward the plan that I sent out to the finance director, and he expected the finance director to reach out, and then I talked to him about it again, and he encouraged us to just call the finance director directly, and he'll help too as necessary. But I think the level it should be at now is between Robin and the finance director.
Great. And if I understand correctly, there is revenue that will be collected because it's going to run through the year rather than when we cease to exist. So the city will be collecting additional funds for about half a year. It's not a lot of money, but it's not an insignificant amount of money that they'll collect. So we are contributing to the city's coffers, and hopefully they will be contributing to our interests with those monies. So that's all really good. And John, Bob, I wanted to thank you for your stewardship of those ideas and that process. And Robin, of course, you as well, and look forward to the next installment of what we need to do. Is there more to say about that?
Of course, now it just went out of my brain. But I know what I was going to do. One thing I was thinking of doing today was to do sort of a budget comparison about where we're at with what we decided for our budget for this year and where we're at in terms of income and expenses. So that will give you an idea of what kind of monies we're looking at. So I'll do that for the next board meeting, the one at the end of June,
And we have a statement, a verbal statement of what the land trust will expect in terms of a payment towards the conservation easement legal defense fund. And Bob, is there any more? Is that a final thing, and will you get that in writing, or how does the financial part there go?
It is in the agreement on the assignment.
And it's $50,000.
It's spelled out in the agreement I sent at $75,000. Yes.
Right. Okay, good. So we have a little extra breathing room there financially. That's on the kind of in towards the middle of the amount that we'd expected. And it seems quite reasonable to me. Great. Other issues about dissolution. Other old business. Hearing none, we'll move on to the monthly expense and cash flow sheets. They're pretty standard sorts of stuff. As of 4/30/23, we had $2,967.11 in our WECU balance. Treasurer's report is there in the agenda, but basically as of April 30th, the Treasurer's monthly report, an unencumbered balance of $254,024, ending unencumbered balance as of 4/30, $279,980, and received tax revenues of $31,611, and paid $5,655 in operating expenses. We need a motion to approve the district payroll input forms, wages for Robin for 22.45 hours in April, for a total gross of $561.25. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Ed and seconded by John. Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 E.
Passes unanimously. The consent agenda, motion to approve following payments. April 15th, 2023 invoice number 03018 for Carmichael Clark for $7,564.50. Payment for March 31st, 2023 invoice 350979. Whatcom County Administrative Services of $30 for the course quarter of 2023 payroll services, and payment May 22nd, 2023 invoice 304 to Richard Hartel Enterprises for $200 for technical services for Zoom hybrid meetings, which we continue to be required to have. And I appreciate both Richard and Robin making that possible. Thank you very much, and extending that opportunity to the public. Do I hear a motion for approving that consent agenda? Hugh moves
I will second.
and John seconds. Discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Good.
Aye.
Unanimously passes. Reminder that Robin is going to send the email to 3 board members right after the meeting. Myself, you, and John. Well, maybe you should pick somebody else besides John McLaughlin.
I sent it to Ed already, so.
Okay, so John, Frank, Hugh, and Ed. Please, we need to respond on, though we're allowed to pay the bills with a written confirmation that that's the actions that we took today. The next regular meeting is June 28th at 6 p.m. It'll be held by Zoom and in person at the usual place, 1108 11th Street, Suite 303, above Ferry and Bicycle. And we will also have a special meeting on June 6th at 6 p.m. for the purpose of correcting our error in not having enough public notice for the public to review our proposed documents. Anyone attending the in-person portion of either of those meetings will be required to wear a well-fitting mask per our discussion and declaration earlier of October 26, 2022. Is there further business?
I just wanted to mention that I had put under new business about the filing, the annual filing with the Washington State Auditor's Office, and it's due at the end of the month, and I'm in the process of doing it right now. I should have it done tomorrow. So just wanted to let you know that.
Is that something we should bring up at the meeting in a month or the meeting in a week? Or does it need approval?
It doesn't need approval of anything. It's
Great.
a notification, basically.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you, Robin. Thanks for updating us on that. Any other new or old business that we missed?
I was going to say it's been actually 43 years since the city did the illegal upzone.
Shall we celebrate you or shall we cry?
We should cry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Tip, thank you. And our anonymous person, Tom, thank you for joining us. You're always welcome, and you're welcome to speak up if you like. And I'm glad that we have an informal enough meeting and enough time that people are able to participate in a more meaningful way than in most public meetings. So thank you for taking the time to do it. And Vince, as always, we are so grateful to have you here as well. So thank you very much. And I will hold the meeting adjourned at 7:23. Not bad. We came close to an hour.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you for coming, Tip.
Thank you, John.
You the